Please kiss me. My ex is watching. Emily Carter heard the words leave her mouth and immediately wished the polished floor of Blackwood Grand Lodge would open beneath her. The stranger beside the tall window turned slowly toward her. He was older than the men she usually met at pack gatherings, perhaps close to 40, tall enough that she had to lift her chin to meet his eyes. Dark hair, broad shoulders, calm gray eyes that seemed far too amused by her disaster. Across the Moonlight Gala, Ryan Mercer had just entered with a beautiful woman on his arm. Worse, he had seen Emily. Worse still, he was already walking toward her. I am sorry, Emily whispered. Heat climbed into her cheeks. That sounded much less ridiculous in my head. The stranger glanced past her toward Ryan. Did it? Emily stared at him. You are not making this easier. I was not aware that was my assignment. There was something dangerously close to humor in his voice. She almost laughed, which felt unreasonable considering her heart was hammering. 3 months had passed since Ryan ended their relationship with a careful speech about compatibility, ambition, and how an Omega like Emily might be happier with someone who wanted a quieter life. She had survived the breakup. She had even convinced herself she was over it. Then he had arrived tonight, looking perfectly comfortable while she stood alone beside a table of sparkling cider, pretending she had not checked the entrance every 30 seconds. He is getting closer, she murmured. The stranger looked again. About 20 feet. Please do not provide measurements. You seem nervous. I thought facts might help. This time she did laugh, softly and helplessly. His mouth curved at one corner. Ryan was 15 feet away now. Emily straightened. Forget I asked. Too late. Her eyes widened. What? Instead of kissing her, the stranger extended one hand. If your goal is to make him wonder, desperation is inefficient. Emily looked at his hand, then back at him. You have done this before? Never. You sound extremely confident for a beginner. I have been accused of that. Ryan was close enough now that Emily could recognize the expression on his face. Surprise first. Curiosity second. That faint little smile he wore whenever he thought he understood a situation better than everyone else. She hated that smile. The stranger followed her gaze and seemed to understand without asking. His voice softened. You do not have to prove anything to him. The words caught her off guard. There was no pity in them. No command. Just an opening she could take or leave. Emily looked at Ryan again. Then she placed her hand in the stranger's. His fingers closed around hers, warm and steady. Something about the simple gesture calmed her more than the dramatic kiss she had foolishly requested. What is your name? She whispered. Nathaniel. Emily. I know. She stopped walking. How do you know my name? For the first time, Nathaniel looked almost caught. Across the ballroom, one of the lodge attendants noticed him and immediately straightened with startling formality. Nathaniel gave the man the smallest shake of his head. Emily saw it. She also saw the attendant quickly look away. Before she could ask another question, Ryan reached them. Emily. His gaze dropped to their joined hands. Nathaniel's thumb shifted once against her knuckles, reassuring rather than possessive. Emily took a breath. Ryan looked at the stranger. And you are? Nathaniel smiled with effortless calm. Apparently, the reason Emily is no longer watching the door. Ryan's smile held for half a second too long. Emily knew that smile. It was the one he used when something had not gone the way he expected, but he intended to pretend it had. I see, he said, looking from Emily to Nathaniel. I did not realize you were seeing someone. Emily opened her mouth, but Nathaniel answered first. She is not obligated to send you updates. His tone was calm, almost polite. Somehow that made Emily want to laugh again. Ryan glanced at their joined hands. Of course not. The woman beside him shifted awkwardly, clearly wishing she were anywhere else. Emily noticed and felt a small wave of sympathy. This was not her fault. None of this needed to become cruel. So Emily smiled at her. You look lovely tonight. The woman blinked, then smiled back with visible relief. Thank you. So do you. Ryan seemed less pleased by the sudden civility. Well, we should probably let you two enjoy your evening. That sounds sensible, Nathaniel said. Emily bit the inside of her cheek. Ryan looked at him again. Have we met? Nathaniel considered the question. Possibly. You look familiar. I have one of those faces. Emily turned toward him. He absolutely did not have one of those faces. Ryan frowned as if searching his memory, then finally gave up and guided his date toward the ballroom floor. Emily waited until they were several yards away before releasing a breath. You are terrible at pretending to be normal. Nathaniel looked down at her. That is an interesting accusation from the woman who asked a stranger for a kiss before learning his last name. That was an emergency. Clearly, she tried to pull her hand away, suddenly aware they were still holding each other. Nathaniel loosened his fingers immediately, but the absence of his warmth felt unexpectedly noticeable. Emily hated that too. "Thank you," she said. "You can go back to whatever mysterious thing you were doing before I ruined your evening. You have not ruined it. I dragged you into an awkward conversation with my former boyfriend. I have attended council dinners. I have survived worse." Emily paused. "Council dinners?" Nathaniel's eyes shifted toward the crowd. "Community councils." That sounded suspiciously specific. "You are suspiciously observant." Before she could press him, a server approached carrying 2 glasses of sparkling cider. Nathaniel reached for one and handed it to Emily without asking. "Apple. Cinnamon. Her favorite." She stared at the glass. "How did you know?" "You were drinking the same thing when I saw you near the entrance." "You noticed that?" He met her eyes. "I noticed things." The answer landed more softly than it should have. Emily took a sip to hide her reaction. "All right. If we are going to continue this ridiculous performance for another 10 minutes, we need facts." "Facts? Fake relationship facts. In case Ryan comes back." Nathaniel nodded solemnly. "Naturally." Emily lowered her voice. "We met 3 months ago." "Too predictable." "Fine. 2 months." "Still dull." She stared at him. "You are taking this very seriously." "I prefer believable fiction." "All right then. We met at a bookstore." Nathaniel shook his head. "A bookstore makes you sound responsible. Tonight you approached a stranger with an alarming request." "I do not believe it." Emily laughed despite herself. "Then where did we meet?" "At a farmer's market." "Why?" "You argued with a vendor over peaches." "I would never argue over peaches." "Exactly. Nobody will question it because it is too specific." She looked at him, half amused, half bewildered. "You are enjoying this." "A little." Across the room, 3 lodge officials suddenly stepped aside as Nathaniel passed near them, each giving him a respectful nod. Emily slowed. Nathaniel noticed. "What?" She looked toward the officials, then back at him. "Nothing." But it was not nothing. And when one of them almost bowed before catching himself, Emily began to wonder exactly who she had chosen for her fake boyfriend. Emily kept walking, but the almost bow stayed in her mind. Nathaniel seemed completely unaffected by it. He moved through the Moonlight Gala with the ease of someone who never needed to wonder whether he belonged in the room. That alone made him dangerous to her curiosity. "You still have not told me your last name," she said. "That feels unfair." He glanced at her. "We have known each other for 12 minutes. 14. You have been counting?" "I am trying to determine exactly when this became more complicated than necessary." "I believe that happened around minute 1. Emily smiled despite herself. The music shifted into something softer, and couples began moving toward the center of the ballroom. She immediately stepped toward the edge. Dancing had never been her strength. Ryan used to joke that she thought too much about every step. Nathaniel noticed the retreat. "You do not like dancing?" "I like dancing very much when I am not doing it." His mouth curved. "That sounds efficient." Before Emily could answer, Ryan appeared again. This time alone. His date was speaking with friends near the far side of the room. "Emily, can I talk to you for a minute?" The old reflex returned instantly. "Explain. Reassure. Make everything easier for everyone else." She hated how familiar it felt. Nathaniel said nothing. He simply looked at her. Not at Ryan. At her. Waiting. Emily understood the question without hearing it. "You can talk here," she said. Ryan's expression tightened. "Privately. I am comfortable here." A strange little pulse of pride moved through her chest. Ryan glanced toward Nathaniel, clearly expecting him to intervene. He did not. That seemed to bother Ryan more. "I just wanted to make sure this is not about me," Ryan said quietly. Emily blinked. "What?" "Showing up with someone new. Making a point." She almost laughed because the irony was too perfect. 10 minutes ago, he would have been right. Now the whole situation felt smaller somehow. "Ryan, you came here with someone too." "That is different." "Why?" He opened his mouth, then stopped. Emily waited. For once, she did not fill the silence for him. "I just do not want you making choices because you are upset," he said. The words sounded concerned. The tone sounded familiar. That was the problem. Nathaniel remained beside her, steady and silent. Emily looked at Ryan and realized how many years she had spent confusing being managed with being cared for. I am not asking you to approve my choices anymore. Ryan's face changed. Not anger. Surprise. Emily felt her hands trembling, but her voice stayed even. I hope you have a good evening. Truly. But we are finished, and I think we should finally act like it. For several seconds, Ryan said nothing. Then he gave a small nod. All right. He walked away without another word. Emily watched him disappear into the crowd. Her heartbeat was loud enough to feel embarrassing. Nathaniel finally spoke. You did not need me. Emily looked at him. His expression held no disappointment, only quiet respect. I know. The answer came easier than she expected. She looked toward Ryan, then back at Nathaniel. But I am glad you stayed. Something shifted in his eyes. Softer now. Warmer. So am I. The next song began. Nathaniel offered his hand again. Would you like to avoid dancing together? Emily stared at him. How exactly do two people avoid dancing together? Very carefully. She laughed. That makes no sense. Then we should probably test it. Emily placed her hand in his. This time there was no Ryan nearby to impress. No performance she needed to maintain. Nathaniel led her toward the edge of the dance floor, moving slowly enough that she never had to guess the next step. You are annoyingly good at this, she murmured. I have been forced to attend many formal events. By community councils? His eyes flicked toward hers. Something like that. Emily smiled, but her suspicion returned. Across the ballroom, an elderly pack leader noticed Nathaniel and immediately stood from his chair. Nathaniel gave him one subtle look. The man sat back down without approaching. Emily stopped dancing. Nathaniel. Yes. Who exactly are you? For the first time all evening, he did not answer with a joke. For one long second, Nathaniel simply looked at her. The music continued around them, soft strings filling the ballroom, while couples moved beneath the chandeliers. But Emily felt as if the entire room had narrowed to the space between his answer and her question. That depends, he said at last. On what? On how much trouble you plan to cause with the information. Emily stared at him. That is not an answer. It is a very careful one. She folded her arms. You know the staff. The officials keep watching you. An elder nearly stood up when you walked past. You knew my name before I introduced myself. And somehow you are excellent at formal dancing. Nathaniel considered the list. When you put it that way, I do sound suspicious. You are suspicious. I prefer mysterious. That is what suspicious people call themselves. His quiet laugh surprised her. It was warm, unguarded, and for a moment she forgot she was supposed to be interrogating him. Nathaniel glanced toward the crowded floor. Would it help if I told you I work with the royal household? Emily narrowed her eyes. Doing what? A little of everything. That sounds deliberately vague. It is. She shook her head, but she was smiling now. Somehow he had turned her suspicion into a game. That should have annoyed her. Instead, she felt lighter than she had all evening. They drifted away from the dance floor toward a quieter side of the lodge where tall windows overlooked the dark pine forest. Emily expected the awkwardness to return once Ryan was no longer part of the equation. It did not. Nathaniel asked what she did for work. She told him she managed community records and helped younger Omegas navigate housing agreements between neighboring packs. He listened as if the answer mattered. Not politely. Actually listened. That sounds difficult, he said. Mostly because everyone believes paperwork is harmless until one sentence changes where a family is allowed to live. Nathaniel's expression sharpened with interest. You notice systems. I notice when systems forget people. The words came out more confidently than she intended. He looked at her for a moment longer than usual. That may be the most useful skill in this room. Emily glanced around at the wealthy guests, polished silver, crystal glasses, and embroidered formal wear. Do not say that too loudly. Someone might revoke your invitation. I would like to see them try. The confidence in his voice was so effortless that she laughed again. Then a man appeared beside them, tall and broad, with sandy hair and the exhausted expression of someone who had been searching for Nathaniel for a very long time. There you are, he said. Nathaniel closed his eyes briefly. Mason. Mason looked at Emily, then at Nathaniel, then back at Emily. His eyebrows rose. I see. No, you do not, Nathaniel said. I definitely do not, Mason replied too quickly. Emily looked between them. Friend of yours? Unfortunately, Nathaniel said. Mason placed one hand over his heart. That is deeply hurtful. Emily smiled. Emily Carter. Mason Reed. He shook her hand, then turned to Nathaniel. Your ma. Nathaniel coughed sharply. Mason froze. Emily blinked. Mason recovered with alarming speed. Your massive problem with avoiding responsibilities is becoming inconvenient. Nathaniel gave him a flat look. Excellent recovery. Thank you. Emily stared at both men. What was he about to call you? Nothing important, Nathaniel said. Mason suddenly became fascinated by the ceiling. Emily stepped closer. Nathaniel. He looked down at her. Yes. Are you secretly important? For the first time, his composure slipped just enough for her to notice. Mason made a sound that might have been a laugh disguised as a cough. Nathaniel glanced toward the distant doors leading to Blackwood Castle, then back to Emily. My mother certainly thinks so. She laughed, but before she could ask another question, 2 royal guards entered the lodge. The room changed immediately. Conversations softened. Pack leaders turned toward the doors. One guard scanned the crowd, found Nathaniel, and gave the smallest respectful nod. Emily saw it. Nathaniel saw her see it. And this time, neither of them pretended it meant nothing. The royal guards did not approach Nathaniel. They did not need to. One glance passed between them, brief and precise, and then they moved toward the far side of the lodge as if nothing had happened. Emily watched them go. You are absolutely hiding something. Nathaniel exhaled through his nose. That accusation is becoming repetitive, because the evidence keeps improving. Mason looked between them and wisely took one step backward. I suddenly remember that I have somewhere else to be. Nathaniel gave him a warning look. Mason, very important somewhere. You are staying. Mason sighed. Of course I am. Emily folded her arms. Good. He can testify. Against me? Nathaniel asked. Potentially. This relationship has become hostile very quickly. Fake relationship, she reminded him. The words landed differently this time. Just slightly. Enough that Emily noticed the pause afterward. Nathaniel noticed too. Before either of them could say more, Ryan returned. His date was no longer with him, and his expression had lost the easy confidence he wore earlier. Emily, I wanted to say something. She felt the old tension rise again, but it was weaker now. All right. Ryan glanced at Nathaniel. In private. Emily shook her head. No. Ryan seemed genuinely surprised. Emily, if you have something respectful to say, you can say it here. Nathaniel remained silent. That silence mattered. He did not step in front of her. He did not turn Ryan into a contest. He simply stayed close enough that she knew he would not leave unless she asked him to. Ryan rubbed one hand over the back of his neck. I just think this whole thing is a little sudden. Emily almost smiled. You mean me talking to someone? You know what I mean. I actually do not. Ryan glanced around the room before lowering his voice. This is not like you. There it was. The sentence she had heard in a dozen different forms during their relationship. You do not usually speak like that. You do not normally wear that. You are happier when things are simple. Each version had sounded harmless. Together, they had slowly taught her to distrust herself. Maybe you only knew the version of me that made you comfortable, Emily said. Ryan went still. Nathaniel's expression did not change, but she felt his attention sharpen beside her. That is not fair, Ryan replied. I always wanted what was best for you. Emily believed he probably meant it. That was what made the truth easier to say without anger. Maybe, but sometimes what you thought was best for me looked a lot like what was easiest for you. Ryan looked away. For the first time that evening, he seemed less defensive than uncertain. I did not come over to argue. Neither did I. Emily took a breath. I'm not trying to embarrass you. I am not trying to compete with anyone. I just want one night where I do not have to explain why I am allowed to enjoy myself. Ryan's gaze moved toward Nathaniel again. And this is enjoyment. Nathaniel finally spoke. You should probably ask her instead of me. Emily looked at him. That simple answer steadied her. Ryan noticed too. Fine, he said. Emily, do you actually want him here? Nathaniel turned his head slightly toward her, waiting. No pressure. No performance. Yes, Emily said. The word came easily. Ryan nodded once. Then I understand. He walked away without another argument. Emily stood very still until the tension left her shoulders. Nathaniel looked down at her. You handled that well. I almost forgot how to breathe halfway through. That part was less obvious. She laughed softly. Thank you for not speaking for me. His expression became serious. You did not need me to. Maybe not. Emily looked toward the ballroom, then back at him. But I wanted you to stay. Something warm passed between them, quiet and unmistakable. Mason cleared his throat from several feet away. I hate to interrupt whatever this extremely fake situation has become, but we have a timing problem. Nathaniel's eyes closed briefly. How bad? Mason glanced toward the royal guards. About 10 minutes before everyone realizes you are not supposed to be standing here pretending to be ordinary. Emily stared at him. Pretending to be ordinary? Mason froze. Nathaniel turned slowly toward him. Mason winced. That sounded better in my head. Emily looked from Mason to Nathaniel. You have 10 minutes before everyone discovers you are pretending to be ordinary. Mason opened his mouth. Nathaniel raised one hand. Mason closed it again. That is not exactly what he meant, Nathaniel said. Emily tilted her head. That sounded exactly like what he meant. He has a talent for making simple situations complicated. I learned from the best, Mason muttered. Nathaniel gave him a look. Mason sighed and pointed toward the balcony doors. You have 9 minutes now. Emily should have walked away. Any reasonable person would have. Instead, curiosity won. What happens in 9 minutes? Nathaniel looked toward the royal guards stationed near the lodge entrance. A formal announcement. About you. He hesitated. That was answer enough. Emily folded her arms. You know, most men would have confessed something by now. Most men probably have less inconvenient things to confess. That is not comforting. A small smile touched his face. I know. He glanced toward the balcony. Would you walk with me? Emily narrowed her eyes. Is that your strategy? Become more mysterious and then suggest fresh air? It has worked surprisingly well so far. She should not have smiled. She did anyway. They stepped outside onto the wide stone balcony overlooking Blackwood Forest. Moonlight silvered the pine trees below, and the cool air softened the noise from the gala behind them. For a moment, neither spoke. Emily rested her hands on the railing. Ryan used to tell me I worried too much about what other people thought. Nathaniel stood beside her, close but not crowding. Was he wrong? No. She looked out across the dark hills. But he also cared very much about what people thought. He just wanted me to care about the same things he did. Nathaniel was quiet. Emily continued before she could lose her nerve. For a long time, I thought being chosen by him meant I had succeeded somehow. Like if someone confident enough wanted me, then maybe I was worth more. The admission felt embarrassing once spoken aloud. Nathaniel did not rush to fill the silence. Anyone who makes you feel grateful for basic respect has already asked too much, he said. Emily turned toward him. His expression was calm, but there was something personal behind the words. You sound like you learned that the difficult way. Nathaniel looked toward the distant outline of Blackwood Castle rising beyond the trees. People rarely speak to me without wanting something. That sounds lonely. He gave a small shrug. It is efficient. That is a terrible answer. I have been told I give those. Emily smiled, then studied him more carefully. Where do you live? Nathaniel looked again toward the castle. Nearby. She followed his gaze. Nearby as in the village? Nearby. The lodge? Not exactly. Emily narrowed her eyes. You are doing the vague thing again. I am consistent. Suspiciously consistent. A soft laugh escaped him. She liked the sound more than she wanted to admit. So what do people want from you? She asked. Nathaniel leaned one forearm against the railing. Decisions. Approval. Access. Sometimes permission. That sounds less like community council work and more like government. His gaze shifted toward her. Perhaps I chose my description poorly. Very poorly. The balcony doors opened behind them. Mason stepped outside, checked the distance between Emily and Nathaniel, and immediately looked toward the sky as if asking for patience. 5 minutes. Nathaniel nodded. Mason started back inside, then stopped. Also, the Western Alpha delegation arrived early. Emily caught the title. Alpha delegation? Mason froze again. Nathaniel rubbed one hand over his brow. You are exceptionally bad at secrets. I am excellent at secrets when nobody keeps asking reasonable questions. Emily laughed before she could stop herself. Nathaniel looked at her, and the amusement in his eyes softened into something warmer. I am sorry, he said. For what? For letting you think I am simpler than I am. Emily's smile faded slightly. Are you going to tell me the truth? He looked toward the ballroom doors. Very soon. That is not the same as yes. No, his honesty surprised her. The music inside shifted again, slower now. Emily studied him beneath the moonlight. You know what is strange? Several things about tonight qualify. I came here worried about Ryan. She looked down at her hands. I have barely thought about him for the last 20 minutes. Nathaniel's expression changed. Is that good? Emily met his eyes. I think it might be. For a second, neither moved. Then the first deep note of a royal horn sounded from inside the lodge. Nathaniel closed his eyes briefly. That, he murmured, is unfortunately for me. The royal horn sounded again, deeper this time. Inside the lodge, conversation stopped almost at once. Emily looked toward the balcony doors, then back at Nathaniel. You look guilty. That is unfortunate. Because you are guilty? Because I was hoping for mysterious. She almost smiled, but the tension in his face kept her from laughing fully. Behind them, Mason appeared in the doorway. We are out of time. Nathaniel nodded once. Emily watched the exchange. Out of time for what? Neither man answered immediately. That silence irritated her more than any lie could have. Nathaniel. He looked at her. I need to go inside. That is still not an answer. I know. The honesty softened her frustration by exactly enough to make it worse. Emily folded her arms. You have spent the last hour telling me I do not need anyone else deciding what I can handle. So do not decide that for me now. Nathaniel went still. Mason quietly stepped backward into the lodge. Coward, Emily thought. Smart coward, but coward. Nathaniel studied her for several seconds. You are right. Good. I should have told you sooner. Her heartbeat shifted. Told me what? Before he could answer, another voice came from the ballroom. Emily. Ryan stood several feet inside the balcony doors. For once, he did not look smug or uncertain. Just tired. Can I say one thing? Emily glanced at Nathaniel. He gave her the choice with a small nod. She stepped inside. One thing. Ryan looked toward Nathaniel, then back at her. You do not have to keep doing this. Emily frowned. Doing what? Pretending. His voice was quiet enough that the nearby guests could not hear. I understand what you were trying to prove. You made your point. Something inside Emily settled. Not painfully. Clearly. She looked at Nathaniel through the open doors. He was still waiting outside beneath the moonlight, giving her space. Ryan followed her gaze. You can stop now. Emily realized, with almost ridiculous surprise, that she did not want to. Not because Ryan was watching. Not because she wanted anyone jealous. She simply did not want the evening with Nathaniel to end. It stopped being about you a while ago, she said. Ryan blinked. Emily almost felt sorry for him. I am not saying that to hurt you. I just think we both need to stop measuring our lives against each other. He absorbed the words slowly, then gave a small nod. Fair enough. He stepped aside. Emily turned back toward the balcony. Nathaniel was watching her, but there was something cautious in his expression now. What did he want? To tell me I could stop pretending. Nathaniel's jaw shifted slightly. And Emily walked toward him, and I think he was right. Something shuddered behind Nathaniel's eyes. I understand. No, you do not. She stopped close enough to see the confusion replace the restraint. What if I am not pretending anymore? For once, Nathaniel Blackwood had absolutely nothing clever to say. Emily smiled nervously. That is new. I am trying to recover. Take your time. That seems dangerous. She laughed softly. Then his expression changed, gentler now. Emily, are you sure? The question mattered more than the moment itself. No assumption. No pressure. She nodded. Yes. Nathaniel lifted one hand slowly, giving her every chance to step away. When she did not, he leaned closer and kissed her briefly, softly, with nothing to prove to anyone watching. Emily forgot the ballroom. Forgot Ryan. Forgot every ridiculous fake detail about farmers' markets and peaches. When Nathaniel drew back, his forehead almost touched hers. That, he murmured, was significantly better than the original plan. Emily smiled. You never even followed the original plan. I improved it. The third royal horn thundered through the lodge. Nathaniel closed his eyes. Emily laughed under her breath. Again, the timing remains terrible. Inside, every guest began moving toward the center of the ballroom. Guards took formal positions beside the main doors. Pack leaders straightened their coats. Emily's smile faded as she noticed something else. Everyone was waiting, not for someone to arrive. Their attention was slowly turning toward Nathaniel. Mason appeared beside the doorway and gave him a helpless look. Your Majesty, we really cannot delay this any longer. Silence hit Emily before the meaning did. Nathaniel turned toward Mason. Mason's face went pale. I said that out loud, did I not? Emily stared at Mason, then at Nathaniel, then back at Mason. The ballroom seemed to tilt beneath her feet. Your Majesty, she repeated. Mason closed his eyes as if hoping the words might somehow return to his mouth. Nathaniel looked less amused than she had seen him all evening. Emily. She took one small step back. Not from fear. From disbelief. Around them, the entire Moonlight Gala had gone silent. Pack leaders stood straighter. Guards lowered their heads. Even the lodge staff stopped moving. The man she had dragged into an awkward fake relationship less than an hour ago was suddenly the center of the room. No, Emily whispered. Nathaniel's expression softened. I can explain. You said you worked with the royal household. I do. Emily stared at him. That is technically true in the most irritating way possible. Mason made a helpless sound that might have been agreement. Before Nathaniel could answer, the main doors opened. A royal herald entered carrying the Blackwood crest. His Majesty, King Nathaniel Blackwood, Alpha King of the Northern Territories. Every guest bowed. Emily did not. Mostly because her brain had stopped functioning. Nathaniel remained exactly where he was, still wearing the same dark formal coat, still looking like the man who had invented an argument about peaches 20 minutes earlier. Only now hundreds of people were lowering their heads to him. Emily looked toward the distant castle visible through the windows. Then back at Nathaniel. You said you lived nearby. Mason turned away, shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. Nathaniel looked genuinely apologetic. Technically, I was telling the truth. Emily covered her face with one hand. You cannot keep using technically. That is fair. You let me ask if you were secretly important. Also fair. You let me tell you our fake relationship began at a farmer's market. That detail was yours. She dropped her hand and stared at him. You improved it. I did. For one dangerous second, she almost laughed. Then embarrassment caught up with her. Ryan was across the ballroom, staring at them with the same stunned expression as everyone else. Emily felt heat rush into her face. I asked the Alpha King to pretend to be my boyfriend. Nathaniel lowered his voice. Yes. Because my ex was watching. Also yes. And then I kissed you. Mason coughed. Nathaniel glanced at him. You may leave. Gladly. Mason disappeared toward the edge of the room, still visibly entertained. Emily looked at Nathaniel again. Was this funny to you? The humor left his face immediately. No. His answer came without hesitation. Unexpected, yes. Funny at first, perhaps a little. But you were never a joke. The sincerity in his voice steadied something inside her. Around them, guests were beginning to rise from their bows, watching carefully. Nathaniel ignored them. I should have told you sooner, he said. Why did you not? He glanced across the ballroom. Because people change when they know. Emily followed his gaze. She understood instantly. Every person in the room was watching him now, measuring every expression, waiting for permission to speak. And I did not, she said quietly. No, his eyes returned to hers. You argued with me, questioned me, accused me of being suspicious. You were suspicious. Very. That nearly made her smile. Nathaniel continued. You treated me like a man instead of a title. I was selfish enough to want that for a little longer. The admission softened her anger, but not completely. You still lied. By omission. Emily gave him a look. Do not say technically. I was not going to. Good. The herald cleared his throat from several yards away, clearly uncertain whether interrupting the Alpha King was wise. Nathaniel did not look away from Emily. They are waiting for me. I noticed. And you are angry. Also noticed. A small smile touched his mouth, but he let it fade. May I ask you one thing before I go? Emily folded her arms. You have about 5 seconds. Nathaniel's gaze held hers. If you had known who I was when you first walked up to me tonight, would you still have asked? Emily imagined it. The royal guards. The bows. The title. The impossible distance between them. She gave a helpless laugh. Absolutely not. I would have run in the opposite direction. Nathaniel smiled then, warm and unmistakably relieved. That may be the best answer I have heard all evening. He turned toward the waiting crowd, then paused. Emily, what? I am still hoping you do not run now. Emily did not run. She watched Nathaniel cross the ballroom toward the waiting herald, and somehow that felt more difficult than leaving. The room changed around him with every step. Conversation stopped. Pack leaders turned. Guards straightened. The easy humor she had seen all evening disappeared behind the calm authority of the Alpha King. Yet when he reached the center of the lodge, he looked back at her once. Just once. It was enough to remind her that the man who had argued about peaches was still there. Ryan appeared beside her a few moments later, quieter than before. "So," he said, looking toward Nathaniel. "I suppose I misread the situation." Emily let out a small breath that almost became a laugh. "So did I." Ryan glanced at her. "Did you know? I thought he worked with the royal household." Ryan actually smiled. That is one way to describe it. For the first time that night, the joke did not feel cruel. Emily looked at him and realized the anger she had carried into the gala was gone. "I meant what I said earlier," she told him. "I hope things work out for you." Ryan nodded. "You too." He hesitated, then added, "For what it is worth, you seem more like yourself tonight." Emily thought about that. "I think I am." Ryan walked away, and she did not watch him go. That surprised her most. Across the ballroom, Nathaniel finished the formal greeting with the Western delegation. It took nearly 20 minutes. Emily considered leaving twice. Not because she wanted to escape him, but because she suddenly wondered whether the entire evening had been possible only because he had been pretending to. Maybe ordinary conversations were a luxury for kings. Maybe tomorrow he would become distant, surrounded by schedules and advisors and people who bowed before speaking. The thought hurt more than she expected. Then Mason appeared beside her holding 2 glasses of sparkling cider. "He told me you like apple and cinnamon." Emily accepted one. "You are encouraging this?" "I am encouraging anything that makes him voluntarily attend a social event for more than 40 minutes. She smiled. "He hates these." With remarkable consistency. Mason took a sip. He was supposed to leave after the opening greeting. Then a certain Omega asked him for help. Emily looked toward Nathaniel. "He stayed because of me?" Mason gave her an innocent expression. I am sure the extended conversation about imaginary peaches was politically essential. Before Emily could answer, Nathaniel approached. The crowd noticed immediately, but he ignored every curious glance. "Mason, Your Majesty." Mason's expression became professionally serious. "I have no idea what we were discussing." "That concerns me." "It should." Mason walked away. Emily looked at Nathaniel. "Do people always disappear when you arrive?" "Usually only the guilty ones." She smiled, then became serious. "Was tonight just amusing for you?" Nathaniel's expression softened. "No, because I need the truth now." No vague answers. No technical truths. Agreed. He stepped closer, but left a respectful distance between them. "I helped you because you looked like you needed a way out of an uncomfortable moment. I stayed because I liked talking to you. I kept staying because somewhere between your terrible plan and your argument with Ryan, I stopped wanting the evening to end." Emily's heartbeat quickened. "And tomorrow? Tomorrow I will still be king." "That is inconvenient." "Extremely." She looked down at her glass. "I do not know how to date a king. That makes 2 of us. I have never dated one either." Emily laughed. Nathaniel smiled. "So perhaps we begin smaller." "How small?" "Dinner tomorrow. No watching. No fake history. No royal announcement if I can prevent it. And no farmer's market. I am willing to negotiate." She pretended to consider. "Dinner sounds reasonable." Relief crossed his face so briefly that anyone else might have missed it. Emily did not. "Then it is a date," he said. "A real one." "That seems riskier than the fake one." "Probably." Mason's voice drifted from somewhere behind them. "For the record, this is the first time I have seen an Omega accidentally recruit the Alpha King as a pretend boyfriend and leave with a second date." Nathaniel closed his eyes. Emily laughed so hard she nearly spilled her cider. And for once, she did not care who was watching.